Well, good afternoon, good morning, good night. I don't know, wherever you are. Hi, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. And as always, I am honored, delighted, and in awe of you all being here today and joining us as each and every week we come to you with some of the greatest shows, ideas, philosophies, tools, strategies, and anything that we can think about, come up with that will break us free from whatever we're involved with, wherever we want to go. Freedom is the ticket. And having our own voice and a way of expressing ourselves is why we are here. And so before we go on with the show, I want to say hi to Amnon.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm fine, Amnon. How are you?
You look marvelous.
Oh, thank you, Amnon. And so do you.
Thank you.
Your head, you're very shiny today.
Okay.
So we're just happy to be here. And Amnon, just so all of you out there know, is our producer, and I'm delighted and so happy to always be working with him each and every week. And so today's show is about badass. What does that mean? And we're going to get into that. But before we do, I just want to tell everyone out there that you are more than welcome to join our chat. You can put your name right under the window, the video, and enter there. You can ask questions, you can comment, you do whatever you like in the chat, as well as call into the studio anytime you like at 919-518-9773, or you can come in on Skype. Computers, that's plural, 2K Voice, and that'll be voice on Skype from wherever you are in the world. We'd love to have you. This is an open invitation for you to share whatever is on your mind. And so today I have three wonderful women that I want to share with you. And I'm going to introduce them now. And then I'm going to ask each of them to share, just a little bit about who they are and why they are badass. So let's start with Angela. Angela, welcome to the show.
Oh,
Whoa.
oh,
How are you,
hello,
Angela?
hello. I know. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for
Good.
having me here, Marilyn.
It's
And
my
hi,
pleasure.
Amnon.
Hello. Hello.
So, Angela, who are you and why you badass?
Oh, well, my name is Angela Emons. The H is silent, and I am a social media trainer, brand strategist, and I help women entrepreneurs and small business owners leverage their online brands so that they can just blow up and be a badass. That's part of what I help them to do. Just leverage social media, the community, and technology. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here. And a badass. I'm a badass because I'm coming into myself and I'm just putting myself out there in a way that I don't say it doesn't matter, but in a way that I can be myself. I'm okay with being who I am. And sometimes that's a little quirky, but you know what? It's okay. And I'm coming into that. That's what makes me a badass.
Cool. Good. Well, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So, Jessica, come
Yes, yes,
come
yes.
tell everybody who Jessica is and why are you a badass?
I'm Jessica Duell. And, well, there are a lot of reasons I'm a badass. First and foremost, it's because I'm willing to take action regardless of any resistance that comes my way. And that shows through in the work that I do as a business advisor and as a facilitator for senior management teams. I don't have any time to waste. And do you guys? I mean, come on.
Right. Right. No time to waste.
No time to waste. Yeah, no, we have to put our actions together, develop our skills,
Yes.
have our objectives all in a row and understand where we're going, because when things don't go the way we want them to be, we've put that planning in. We've cultivated what we can use and work from going forward. And it's what I love to do. It's what I love to do.
Perfect. And Ivana, now I know you're a badass.
I don't know. I don't know how much of a badass I am, but it is so great to be with all of you today. So I'm Ivana Taylor, and I'm the publisher of DIY Marketers. I give low-cost marketing advice to small businesses and to keep them out of overwhelm and moving forward. I am a badass because I absolutely love failure, and I love to fling myself into things I know nothing about just because.
Okay. Okay. So that's great. So my question is then, so what I've heard from the three of you is action, authenticity, and flinging. So does that about
works.
size it up? What makes those traits, characteristics of a badass woman or badass anybody? Why are those traits the new badass?
I'm going to jump in,
yeah,
right?
Good. Yeah, go.
Sure,
Because
go ahead.
everybody wants transformation. Everyone wants transformation, and there's really 3 steps involved in a transformation. One is you have to choose it. So everything's about choice. So even if your life is sucking right now, because clearly you have chosen, right? So you got to take, that's why I fling myself into failure, because I'm pretty clear that if something's happening that I'm not happy with, it is all my own choosing. That's number one. And then the other cool thing is that there are 2 ways, additional 2 ways to have transformation happen for you. One is, you're just out there living your life and you run right into it, and there it is. It's like, I am transformed. That is like sort of like sticking your hand on a hot stove and going, dang, not doing that anymore, right? But the other one is where you put yourself in the path of transformation. And that is when you knowingly put yourself into a circumstance where you're going to learn something and you give yourself the space to fail.
I love that. And choice is such an important part of everything that we do. Even when we don't think we're choosing. Even when we stand back and watch, that's a choice. And, for me, part of action is a whole lot of bad opinions. I know what I don't know, and I know where I'm dangerous, which is where I love to play a lot of the time. Yet at the same point in time, I know when I don't know something, I am going to make the choice. Am I going to keep my mouth shut because I don't know enough about it? Or am I going to go find out about it so I can form my own opinion on it and be useful? And it comes down to what we can say yes and no to, what our drive and our priorities are. And that really comes down to a lot to personal values and where we are on this path of transformation, whether it's happening to us or we're choosing it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So
and just to piggyback off of choice too, with the whole authenticity part, you have to choose to be authentic. It is so easy to fall in that echo chamber and to be like everybody else, to be like your mentor, to be like your coach, to be like the people we want to be like. Because most of us are mentoring somebody else. And so it's so easy to be like them and to forget that that's not who we are. And that's not who we want people to see us as. So falling into that little echo chamber is so easy, but we have to choose to not be part of that echo chamber and to be ourselves. And I think that's a choice. It goes back to choice. It's a choice to be that way.
Mm-hmm. So, I hear these words like badass, and I'm implying that when you take a choice or when you be authentic or you take action, that you do it with your personality. You do it with fun.
Yes.
You do it with fearless flinging. You do it with you know what I mean? You do with energy.
And empathy. Yeah. I'm going to add empathy to that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that our world really needs right now. It doesn't matter where we're at, what we're doing, being curious about why somebody thinks the way they do, reacts the way they do, shows up the way they do, comes from their own life experience. And to be able to listen and be curious about that allows us to make a deeper, truer connection and how we can really fully engage. So I would add that to your list of words.
Good. What about you, Ivana?
I am so in love with the fact that you talked about curiosity. And, one of my favorite questions is to take a look at the circumstance and say, what's missing that if it were present would just blow the roof off of the experience or the circumstance? And Jess, I'm all about curiosity, because the interesting thing about curiosity, and this is where the badassness, I don't know if that's a word. Is that a word? Anyway.
It'll be a word today.
It'd be a word today. #badassness. This is where it really comes into play, because when you're curious, now your ego's not so involved. You're curious. You're like, and isn't that what's missing? Like right now, so many people are so sure about that they're right and someone else is wrong. And you're so in your echo chamber, as you said, Angela, that curiosity is what's missing. And I'm in love with that word, because I said anyone who could be curious can step out of their ego and can make things less significant and take themselves less seriously and maybe learn something.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point, because when we're curious, we don't point a finger.
Mm-hmm.
We're open.
We're open.
We're
Yes.
open. We're open. We're open. And we might have to be out on that skinny branch. We might be those trailblazers. We might be going out there without a plan, without an agenda, when we're curious, right? And we go anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a question on our chat from Chris. She wants to know, do you think that there's a difference between a male versus a female version of badass?
You know what? In true preparation, I just Googled, what does badass mean? And the answer is yes. If you were to do that, there is a difference. And I would say that it was unfortunately, things fell into very feminine and very masculine forms. And I would say my own personal opinion is that no, a badass is a badass is a badass.
But a badass is bad or good?
Because we need people to be who they are.
Okay. Ivana, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here. I get what Jessica is saying, right? Although who said get out on the skinny limb?
Me, I think.
Marilyn.
You know,
Yes, Marilyn.
I'll tell you something. I think that is something that is so powerful, and that's the badassness of it all, right? I believe that what makes someone a badass is having a point of view, like a strong point of view, right? Now, I don't know how this plays against curiosity and being open, but I think it's having the point of view that has you occurs powerful for people. I think what's interesting between the male and the female thing is that men and women, and this is where I'm going to go out on the limb, right? Men and women are not the same. We have our individual strengths. We have our individual weaknesses, places where women are strong, men may not be as strong on the aggregate, right? And I think that's something I would love to see, to say, yes, there are differences and we do it differently. And that is great. Like, why does it have to be the same?
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't, because...
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that if a man and a woman are both being quote unquote badass, they're coming into their own, they have their own opinion, they're doing what is right, they're curious, I think it's perceived differently. Not necessarily that being a badass is different versus male versus women, because to say that some men are just so manly and then some men are not as manly, they're still coming into themselves, they're still being their own badass. I think it's how it's perceived to the public. And if a woman is being a badass, that's her taken as well as when a man is badass and he's doing him. He's being assertive, whereas a woman is seen being, obnoxious. She's quote unquote being somewhat bitchy, if I can say that on.
You can say anything you want on here.
So they're seen being as bitchy, and it's not perceived or taken as well as if another man was to do the exact same thing. And so it's all about perception. I don't think there's a difference in how you do it if you're doing it the way that's natural to you. So
I have to say something, because I'm going to jump out of my skin. The thing is, we are redefining words and experiences, because what just happened with Angela just about cracks me up. Because we're using the word bad ass, and we didn't even we didn't make any assumptions that you couldn't say that word, because we've already made friends with it. And Angela, you almost stopped for a second to say, can I say the next word? What was it, bitch?
The bitchiness, yes.
Bitchiness. And you almost said, I don't know if I could say that, but it was okay to say badass. because we are, as we approach a word, we're changing how we look at it, and how we live the word, or how we be the word, or how we want the word to be, right? Because badass to me now means something very different than when I approached the word, what it felt like it meant. And we're redefining it as we speak, what the word badass means.
Well, yeah, there's quote unquote bad words, and what makes them bad is the context in which they're used, right? So if you'd walked up to a woman and she had a dog with her and you called the dog a bitch, you wouldn't think anything of it, right? Because the context of that is totally okay. So it's like one of those like in between words. So you're right on, Marilyn. I think a lot of words we've just accepted. And what I noticed, Marilyn, as you were talking, is that by definition, badass has no gender.
Right.
That's true. That's very true.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And when you think about women or men in historical, who do you look back on and go, you know what? They were a badass. They were a trailblazer. They were out in the wild, wild west, or in the, in the Champs-Elysees, or they were here or they were there, and they were powerful, they were strong, they were committed, they did new things. Who do you look back on and say defines who that person is?
I look back on Joan of Arc, as you were saying. I mean, you didn't even, as soon as you said history, I'm like, Joan of Arc. What was she, like 14, getting up on her horse and fighting for what she believed in? And the men, they followed her. That's badass.
They followed her.
That's true.
That's very true. They followed her. That's a good one. What about you, Angela? What do you think of? Who do you think of?
You know what? Music came to my mind. So when I think of badass coming into their own, Anita Baker. So if you follow R&B in the least, her voice is really is sultry, but it's deep. It's not what was being played at the time. Her voice is just something where you can recognize it no matter what, and she owned it. She came out there and she owned the music. She owned the R&B time period of her voice, and her voice is nothing compared to other people. And it wasn't accepted because it was considered somewhat manly. Mm-hmm. So Anita Baker, if you do follow R&B, she just came to my mind. Don't ask me why. Music was on my mind, I guess, today.
And I was thinking about this particular thing, like who in history for me, and I think of Eleanor Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. And even now, when you mention music, I think of Tina Turner.
Yes, I could go down a list. James Brown, people that Prince were people that chose to be different despite the standards. That to me is being a badass. You're still doing you, and you're accepting that not everybody's going to follow along, not everybody's going to accept it, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. And that to me, that's being a badass, mm-hmm. male or female.
Right, I agree. And is Jess back?
I am.
Oh, good. Good. Good.
Well, I thought of somebody while I was listening to you guys talk, and that would be Maya Angelou.
Yes.
From the poem, as a poet. Yes. And just, here we are people. This is what it takes. And look, you know what? This is what I'm going to do when I'm treated this way. And this is what I'm going to do to treat other people the way that I think and I feel.
Mm-hmm. And that's a badass.
That's a badass.
That's a badass. Yeah. I'm none. Do you have a badass in your life?
Don't push me. But I was gonna make a comment before about can we say that, and I'm thinking that our kids now, if they're listening to this, they say, listen to those old people. They're not sure that they can say bitchy on television. They're wondering if they can say these words. Mm. I mean, in their circles and when they're growing up, I mean, I don't know that there's anything you're not going to be able to say on TV. Mm.
Well, what about, and that's interesting. What about cursing and using, language that we're not used to, or I'm not used to in public using, like the F word or this word or that word. What about using those words? How do you feel about that? Does being a badass come with any limitation or no limitations?
I'll jump in, and I'm going to start with where Angela started, which is in authenticity. Some of us use strong language like that, and it comes naturally and it reinforces our energy, and it is totally who we are. Others of us, and I fall into a different group, it looks like I'm trying to be somebody I'm not when I add certain strong language. So I stick with where I am classy and totally myself, because people will see right through it when I'm choosing language that isn't in line with me.
That's a good point. And
Well,
before,
let me ask this question. Do I, my family says I cuss like a sailor. So in my personal life,
you're a badass. Yeah.
I'm from New York. There's a part of me that is, if you know anything about Gary Vee, there's a part of me that relates to Gary Vee. But at the same time, in certain environments, you would not know that I do curse. That's just me. And it's not being inauthentic. It's just I am more situational, and if I feel comfortable doing it, I'll do it. If I don't, then I won't. And that's just me. But I do curse, and it's a part of me. That's why I have to make sure some days, where I'm at, and
Well,
and
that's
it's
a
not.
choice.
I don't think I'm putting up a front, but it's right. It is a choice. It is a choice of my environment and what I choose to bring to the table.
Agreed. I spent 20 some years in manufacturing. And so I believe that words should be used with purpose. So I'm with you, Angela. There are people who know me when I'm totally, just being me. I will curse, but I will not curse everywhere. And I curse with purpose. For example, in certain situations, I don't know how to explain this. I'll be like in a group of people and it feels very stiff for some reason. And I might just let something slip. And in that moment, like the walls come crumbling down as if like, it's okay. We can like all relax. And so that's sort of a, and I'm not the only one who does that. I know quite a few people who do that. And that is using language with purpose.
Yeah. And I'm not, you were going to say something?
I was going to say about what Angela was saying.
Yeah.
That the fact that at certain environments, a certain surrounding, you will be cussing a lot, and others you would be a ladylike, and other ones you'll be bitchy like. That has got nothing to do with not being authentic. This is a package, and you just know. It's just like you have revealing clothes and you have business clothes. You don't wear everything at the same time. You know when to wear that and when to wear that.
Oh, I'm listening to you guys, and I'm like, I just don't have that filter. Must be it, because once it flips, it's anytime, anywhere in terms of language. And so I'm very cautious about the language that I use, knowing that I want it to be purposeful. But I hear what you're saying. You're right. Different wardrobes for different things. But when I'm engaging with somebody, I guess I don't have any filters there. And I'm okay with that.
And it's okay, because that's you, and that's what makes you a badass. I mean, like he said, I've got different outfits, and it takes a minute to say, okay, I don't want to wear this for this interview. I want to wear that. That's a great way to see it. It's okay, but that's you. As long as you're being you and you're comfortable with it.
So I want to just once again invite anybody who's out there that wants to partake in this conversation, whether you feel you are a badass or you're not, or whatever it is. Call us at 919-518-9773. If you have a question for any one of my guests in particular, now's the time. Or connect with us on computers, that's plural, the number 2K Voice on Skype. And also we've got our chat going, so partake in there as well. I love one of the things about this show, not one of the things, the thing about the show is about freedom. And to put things into a perspective, so that things are not a stigma, or that if you want to curse, or if if you want to be intentional, it's fine. If you want to do this, it's fine. What makes it all, or what allows it, or how do we have it be fine, is this authenticity, is being yourself and showing up as yourself, and laughing at yourself, and finding who you are through all of this, and having it be okay. And this show is permission. This show is permission. I have 3 beautiful women on here. You can put these women up in the stage in front of a whole auditorium of people, and they will be professional, they will be insightful, they will be all of those things, and you can give them a word and they'll know how to use it. So what does freedom mean to all of us? What does freedom actually mean? What does it mean to be free? Now, especially. Go ahead.
I'm going to say that, to me, freedom is responsibility. It's taking responsibility for your actions, your choices. It's knowing that you can take actions and choices. So you're free to do that, right? The whole free will. You are free to choose. But the other side of that is taking responsibility for them. And I don't say that in a way, because even as I'm saying it, it sounds like not fun, right? But actually, it's actually really freeing to know that everything. It's that quote: "When you're free, you make choices, and then things don't happen to you; they happen for you." I heard that quote somewhere, and I just really love that. And it's like a cyclical thing. So freedom is like this cycle. You choose, you have a consequence, and then you learn from that consequence, and then you choose again, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good. What about you, Jessica or Angela? What do you think?
Well,
Freedom.
go ahead, Angela.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, okay. Freedom means, when I think of it, is opportunity. To do right, the opportunity to make mistakes, the opportunity to how you want the world to see you. Freedom is that opportunity to say, this is what I choose to do. And so that is my word in
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add with a third word, and to me, freedom and courage go hand in hand. Because when I have the power to choose, and when I take responsibility, which is one of the ways that I define freedom as well, knowing to make the right choice at the right time for me first, and then everybody else around me, so I can continue to support everybody else around me, takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to do what I know is right in this moment.
Yeah, I really love picking out that word courage, because it does take courage
courage.
to be out there on that skinny branch, or to take a chance on a word, or to do certain things that we all tend to do, and a lot of people out here tend to do. It does take courage. And one thing I will say is, it's wonderful to surround yourself with people who support that courage, support you taking chances, and they're taking them too. And you can, you talk about what happens in those chances, and what happens when you are courageous, because sometimes you know what, you don't lose the courage even when something doesn't work out. It doesn't mean you're less courageous or less, well, right? It mean, I mean, you just go on to the next thing, or the next thing, and you keep on experimenting or trying or doing something different, and putting yourself out there, with love, I say.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we're faced with a lot of disheartened people in some ways, people with opinions about some things, and it takes courage to even voice an opinion. of any kind.
Of any kind,
Of
absolutely.
any kind. You know, there's a lot of emotion out here, and people are very sensitive. So, you know, I feel like being able to express ourselves in the way that we are and with open dialogue is just so freeing
Mhm.
to be able to do that in a safe
It takes
space.
courage to listen.
Mhm.
Why do you say that?
To everybody's voicing their opinion. Everybody's, it's almost like there's a free will to just throw it out there. But it takes courage to listen and to really listen to the next person and to try to see where they're coming from. We may not all agree, but to just take it in, to sit down and say, I'm going to listen, I'm going to hear what you have to say, that takes courage, because so many people don't even want to listen to
Mhm.
the next person, or to assume that their their point of view might be wrong, whichever side or whichever thought you got. Just to sit down and listen is taking courage, because there's people that don't even want you in the same room as the next person because they don't believe the same thing. So
Right.
just having the courage to listen and say, that's a different side of opinion, and that do exist.
So what's the job of a badass person? What's our job in the on this planet? Do we have a job? Does a badass person have a specific job on this planet?
We all have a job on this planet.
Yeah, really.
We have to find out what it is. It's finding what our badassness is. Hashtag. Finding out what that is, and sticking to it, and having the courage to go full forth with it. Everybody's role is different, and taking the time to find out what your role is, how you will impact the world, what's your stance, I think takes courage in ourselves, and then being able to go out there and do it. So just saying what is our role, taking time to find that out, and then going ahead and doing it. So I believe everybody's role is different in the world, otherwise we'd all be the same.
Mhm. You know, Chris has a quote on here, and she wants to know. She was wondering what you all think about this. Um, Scar tissue is stronger than regular tissue. Realize the strength and move on. Henry Rollins. Do badasses all have some degree of scar tissue that helps them to propel themselves into greater authenticity?
Yeah, I would say badasses are probably one big giant scab.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right.
I like
So
that.
you don't. So you earn badass.
Wow, that's a big question.
Well,
Because
if
all
you
this
didn't say what you just said, I wouldn't have the question.
well,
Yeah.
all this whole our conversation has been like, it's a choosing, it's a being, right?
Mhm.
But that's not to say that you can't become.
Okay.
I would agree with that, Ivana. And that's one of those things where, we were talking, whether it be courage, whether it be going out on a limb, whether it being our true self, whether it be taking responsibility, all of the failure, that was where I was going. The word that you used early on is it's all about resilience. And scar tissue actually gives us more resilience over time. And so I totally do think you can become one. If for whatever reason you don't think you are one right now, you're looking at your badass shoes, whatever those look like, and you're going to step into them. Just know that there's a lot that comes with it. And yeah, and you already are. It's just a matter of finding out for yourself.
Yeah, I love that analogy with badass shoes because that really
It's all
does.
about the shoes.
Yeah,
All about the shoes.
it's
It
all
is.
about the shoes, and for me, it's about like
It's all
bright
about-
lipstick. I love that because it really does it defines, like, I'm really like sitting here figuring, okay, all of these things define badass. And Chris says, are badasses born or made?
Yes.
I was going to say, I think just like any leadership skill, becoming a leader, owning your responsibility for your own life, being the leader of your own life, all of that stuff, you might be born with it. You can definitely learn it if you weren't.
Right. Go ahead, Angela. I see
Some
you.
people have.
Go ahead.
Some people are natural. It's a natural badass, and then others like walk into it. You start to develop it, you step into it, it becomes part of who you are, whether it's through your lessons that you learn over time, your experiences that pushes you to be a badass. You know, maybe you've lost your job and now you're deciding, hey, I'm being an entrepreneur. That might be you stepping into your badassness. It might be you saying, I'm not an entrepreneur anymore. I'm gonna go and be a C executive suite I need to be. I mean, it could be both ways. It's you stepping into it or you just naturally being that. That might be you.
Hmm. It's all okay. Everything is
It's all
okay,
okay.
really. You're all okay.
Well, here's the thing. It's not okay if we're not using it. I'm going to just call that out right now.
Okay, so go ahead, explain that. Go ahead. That's good. Go ahead.
Okay, because sure, if we are a badass, but we stand and we're a wallflower, what good is that? As well as if we want to become a badass, but we never take any action to move forward and hone a particular skill and make a particular impact, what good is that? We've got to actually take the action and do it.
So Suziani says on our chat, strength comes from overcoming obstacles, and real strength comes from recognizing that. I just want to make a point of that just came up. So
That's a good one.
badass. What do badasses do with their feelings? You know, because sometimes, you know,
I don't know.
to be a
What it's supposed to do with
sometimes
it.
to be a badass, you have to do something with your feelings, I think. Like if I am going to go out there regardless and do something. Now I'm going to have some feelings along the way about something. It doesn't mean that I won't continue to go out there and be a badass. What do we do with our feelings?
A badass can, what is the right word? Contextualize,
Okay.
frame, and transform their feelings as required. So I'm going to say something out here, right? And you guys will, I don't know if you know what, right? So I am taking a comedy class. I have no desire to be a stand-up comedian, but I just wanted to put myself in the path of transformation, right? Just like do something. And I've learned that, it takes something, and I'm scared beyond belief, right? I'm like, wow, I am not good at this. This is something, I was not born a comedian. I was not, I can write, but I can't write comedy, or at least not this. So I have all kinds of feelings around that. One of them is trepidation because we have to get up on stage and perform. So that said, I can choose to be a quote unquote at the cause of my feelings and go, I am so scared that I'm not going to do this. This is back to your point, Jess, of like, being a wallflower or whatever. Or I can literally create feelings of excitement, right? I can create that feeling and say, I'm not scared, I'm excited. And I can create that excited feeling and shift. So,
Ivana, that's awesome, because there's two sides of the coin. In your brain, the same emotion, depending on your outlook, can be extreme fear or extreme excitement. It's the exact same emotion. It just depends on the lens with which we're looking through it.
get out. See, I didn't even know that.
So this is great. And so how do we take this information and how do we teach it to young girls or young boys? I mean, how do we define badass for them? Now, do you have any of you have children?
I do.
I do.
And
All of us have
I think
children.
we all
now,
do.
right?
Mhm.
Girls, boys? All
I
A
got a boy.
5-year-old boy.
Say that again, Angela. What'd you just say?
I have a boy.
You have a boy. Jess, what do you
Mhm.
have?
5-year-old boy. So young.
5-year-old boy. Ivana, what about
And
you?
I've got a 16-year-old boy.
16-year-old boy. I have 5 children between my husband and I, 3 girls and 2 boys.
Wow.
That's
And
wonderful.
so, and I've never thought about this question before, about empowering my children to be badasses and doing it in a good way, because otherwise badass is not the, you know what I mean, and then it takes on something else. I don't know.
Never thought of it as the badass thing, right? I just remember saying certain things. I'm sure you guys have something similar that you say with your kids, right? But I just remember constantly repeating things to my son like, you know, my job is to help you be the best Alexander you can be. That's my job. So my job is to like be the scientist and be curious about, and when I say be the scientist, I totally mean that. Like, remember potty training? Oh my God, right? It's like figuring out what motivates them, figuring out these little things, figuring out what scares them, figuring like all these things out just through pure observation, trying to identify the spark that is them, uniquely them. And then I see that as my role to like sort of like protect and nurture that spark, right? While like sort of managing the rough around the edges part so that they could integrate into society without like, you know, whatever. But it had never occurred to me, you know, the badass part. Like, I don't know that I had a commitment to him as a badass. I had a commitment to him to be the best human being that he could be.
I love that. We're similar. We sat down and we chose together, Ryan and I. Ryan has his core values and I have my core values. We decided to make core values as a family. And we look at everything we do through 3 values that all 3 of us can remember. We know how they're defined in our house, and we can apply them looking backwards to, oh, we didn't like the outcome. I wonder why. What could we have done differently? And it comes into adding one of those values back in. Or I'm thinking about making a decision, or I have a problem to solve, and we're bringing those values in first and foremost, if for nothing else, that there's this cornerstone to launch from, so that when I know I've done a good job, which is probably when he's 30 and not living in my house and being able to care for himself, I have a long way to go there, but that he has this frame of reference and he can look within himself for his own internal motivation to not only do what is exciting to him, but do it with a care and a compassion that I know that every single one of us needs. And sometimes it gets, I don't know if it gets forgotten or if it gets squashed, but that I want to make sure neither one of those things happen to Carter's compassion.
You know, I was thinking when I asked that question, because it just came out. Part of, I think, what I would want to instill or help my children understand, and I have like 5 adult children, so, you know, I mean, is in being a badass is to have a voice, not be controlled, not have somebody over you with a thumb and squishing you, squashing you, putting you down. Is to stand on your own and to be authentic, and all the things that you all have chatted about, added, being courageous, all of those things, and doing it with a purpose in mind that's good for everybody. Angela?
I'm listening. So I have a 14-year-old. And one of the things that I support is I want to be his support system. I support you to be whatever you need to be. And I'll go a little story if we got time for it. If we got time.
Yeah.
When he was roughly around he was in the second grade. He was in the second grade and he had a report to do. So in the second grade, got this report to do. And I realized that I am one of those, I wait till the last minute. I can stay up late. I can do all of this in a short period of time. I can put everything together in a short period of time. And I was projecting that on him. And he basically had like a little mini panic attack because I realized he needed time to embrace the project and do all of that. And that was the first time I actually came across him being who he was and his personality and how he handles information. And it's so funny because I like to consider myself a BC. I'm kind of quirky. I like to do this stuff. And he's so A. I like to say he's so A, like he puts everything. And I'm like, where did I get you from? And I tell him, it's okay. That is you. You can't be me and I can't be you. And over time, I've learned to embrace the fact that he needs a schedule, he needs to have that. And him accepting that, that's how he learns. That's how he handles. He's in a STEM school right now, and the course load is off the chain.
Mm-hmm.
It is no joke. But I'm helping him to support to say, listen, you have to be able, you can't function like the other kids. You have to plan stuff out in a way that works for you. And I can't help you with every bit of those steps. So in embracing his badass comes from being so mechanical. His badass comes from history and all. He has to embrace that, and I'm helping him embrace that. So I'm helping him by supporting him to become in his own, because we have similar tendencies, but I can tell you that some of his tendencies is strictly him, and
Right.
I can only support that. So in supporting somebody's badass is recognizing in them who they are and saying it's okay to go ahead and take that step. It's okay to be that person, and saying not everybody's going to accept that, but it's okay for you to accept it and to find a way to make it work.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful way of putting it. And before we go on, Ivana, I know in a little while you're going to have to leave us because you have another
I have another
show
hangout
to do. So before you go, just to do a little bodacious marketing for
A
yourself.
bodacious marketing. You
Yeah.
mean just to tell you that, well,
Yeah. Where if
anything,
go ahead. What,
anything you need to do, you're going to find at DIYmarketers.com. Go on over there, join our little mailing list so you can get all the good stuff. And by all means, ask me questions and talk to me. Catch me on Twitter, because that's my favorite place to hang, at DIY Marketers. In fact, that's where I'm heading right now. I'm heading over to do a chat. So if you guys are available after this one, join us over on Twitter at #Bizapalooza Chat. Runs Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern.
perfect.
That's it, people. I
Perfect.
love you. Mwah.
So are you leaving us now?
I'm going to be dropping
Okay.
so when you see me leave, I really had to go, but I'm going to
Okay.
hang as long as I can.
Perfect. And this is another thing. It's the way it is, and it's no apology. You know, sometimes people will come on and go, well, I have to leave and I don't want to leave in the middle. Blah, blah, blah. You do what you got to do. And that's perfectly great. And you do it with graciousness and a smile. And I love it. So I want to thank you. We're not done yet, everybody out there, but I do want to thank Ivana for being here and for sharing her wisdom with us today, her badass wisdom, and look forward to having her back again. So anyway, so Jess, Angela, what, what questions do you have, or are you curious about, or what direction do you want to take this conversation of badass?
Well, I know I was out for just a few minutes for some technical difficulties. Did we talk about the need, and I know it came up in terms of strength through the scar, but did we actually talk about having a thick skin? Did we talk about what it means to let stuff bounce off of us?
Well, no, I think it's a good thing because you started it when you talked about courageous, but you sure need that.
You really do. And I mean, otherwise we're all whining at each other and we're not going to get anything done. And so for me, I'm like, we've got to decide. Yes, we can listen. Yes, we can be curious. And yes, even more importantly, we can hear, and maybe hopefully in a non-judgmental way, we can try and understand what somebody is telling us, but then to be able to go, do I really need to consider that right now for my own personal improvement, especially if it's personal, especially if it's directed right at us? And maybe that's a compartmentalization, and maybe it's not. By the way, I'm not good at compartmentalization. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is because I'm looking for some tips. I have a pretty thick skin. The problem is it comes off as aloofness. It doesn't come off as genuinely caring about what somebody feels like they have to tell me, because it took them courage to tell me whatever they needed to tell me.
Mm. So you're looking for tips on doing what? Having a thicker skin?
No, well, we could start there. I have a pretty thick skin, but how about being connected and genuine to be able to receive what's being heard, even though I'm not necessarily taking it to heart at that moment.
Ooh,
because there's a time and a place for that reflection.
That's a good one. So I would love to engage in that. So either any of you, Ivana, Angela, do you have something to say?
Oh, I have the same issue, Jess. People come to me and they're like, do you not care about this? And I'm one of these people that just, I need time to process information and to figure out what does it mean for the other person? What does it mean for me? Okay, I'm going to say something. I think I'm going to say, my tip is, it's an old management tip, right? Which is when someone says, I'd like to share something with you or whatever. And I'm going to say, what would you like? Would you like me to listen? Would you like me to listen and give you advice? Like, how is it that I can occur for you inside of this conversation? And then they can tell me, and that gives me the little extra time to sort of prepare for that, right? And to respond accordingly. But, and maybe the other one is, if someone says something to me, I can also say, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to need some time to process and I'll get back to you or whatever. I don't know, does that come off as being aloof or cold or something?
I don't know. I say thank you.
It depends on the person. I think it depends on how we receive it. It depends on the person. Everything depends on the person and their nature of it. So if you know the person and they tend to be accept certain things a little bit differently, you kind of modify for it. Making sure that you repeat what they say and saying, hey, I do get it. For me, it starts mentally. Walk into a situation and I don't want to hear it. It tends. So sometimes I have to stop and say, okay, I'm open. Obviously, I'm not saying it out loud, but I'm saying I'm open. I'm okay. Let me just receive the information. Let me take it in. And then I go in and then I approach the person and say, hey, what did you have to say? Knowing that I'm not going to act on it right then and there, but I have to tell myself first to be open. And that way it will show off as I'm open to that person. I think mentally we kind of close ourselves off, or we are thinking something and despite the fact we may not know that's been one of my things where people say, well, you look like this. And I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm sorry, I'm taking it in. So we have to realize who we're dealing with first and then say, what are we showing that other person? I think that's one step.
I was telling Amnon before the show started, I posted the thing about Hamilton on my Facebook page, and I got like all kinds of comments, all kinds. Some were not nice, some were very nice. And I had to take a step back out of my own way and out of my own emotion, because some of my emotion wanted to, what, are you kidding? How could you say such a thing? Or how could you not believe that? But I had to take a step back, because I know my purpose in doing this is to, beyond that, is to be to speak out and not be quiet, but to speak out in a way that people are going to hopefully more than not will be able to hear me. Because if I scream it, nobody's going to hear me. But if I come out and say things and I'm not quiet, but I have an opinion, I have to be able to take what people say and not take it personally. Because it's not about me, it's about whatever. And I'm dealing with a similar thing, and I'm just taking each person as they either attack me or they love me, and come in not using that Einstein quote and rising above it to a different level, because you can't solve a problem on that same level. I have to rise above it, above the attack, to a place where I want to go. And I have to talk to myself. And so, maybe face to face is not, people can see you talking to yourself. But, as long as we use our English language or our words and we say, you said something, or I know I want to respond here, give me a second, because it means a lot to me to respond in a good way. You can't control how people think.
Right. And that's where, and that voice that you were talking about earlier, and is really important, because it's through that voice we can recognize when we're standing in our badass shoes, which, what actually is useful, and is it helping us fill our badass shoes, or is it letting them sit on the shelf and us look at them?
Right. What are you going to do with them?
What are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not going to be able to talk about everything, as much as I would love to talk about more, but really, we have things to say. And, you know,
I, without being political, I was listening to CNN, and I know people hate CNN, and I wanted to realize what people hated about CNN. And somebody, I can't tell you who, but said a statement that kind of triggered something in me. They said we have to be tough like Teflon Trump. About that Teflon Trump, he put stuff out there, and he's in himself is a badass because he put stuff out there and he kind of let it roll off of his skin. The Teflon Trump. We have to be tough like that, regardless of who you voted for. But I think being able to say this is my thoughts and my opinion, it takes courage. It takes strength. There's something to be said about that.
yep, you got a good point. So,
And that's what I hold
yeah,
on to. Teflon Trump.
because I mean, that's a good lesson that he's teaching, you know. Listen, I want you each to share about, your bodacious marketing as well. So, Angela, who are you? Where do they find you? What will they find when they find you? And what do you want them to find?
You won't find any lacy pictures. That's before this old Snapchat came out. I'm good. My name is Angela Emons. H is silent. It's out there. I'm everywhere pretty much. You can DM me Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever your fancy is. That's where I'm at with HEMANS. Right now, I am working on helping people communicate their message online so that they can be a badass in how they talk, and it'll be receptive to the people they're trying to communicate to. So you can go to www.angelaemons.com and take a look around. You'll find branding, you'll find marketing, you'll find social media, anything to do with technology is around. So reach out to me, say hello, ask a question. I'm pretty cool, but helping you communicate online so that it'll be received.
Cool. And what about you, Jessica?
Well, I'm Jessica Duell, and it's so amazing to be here and on your show. And I love the energy that this last hour has really brought. And now my brain is going, and it's got all of these ideas percolating, and it has all of these places that I want to be very curious about going forward in the next hour, day, week. And that's what I do. My team and I, we work with business leaders and leadership teams in organizations to understand what the baseline is of their business, understand where they want to go, and then build the benchmarks to do that. And at reddirection.com, there's a ton of information about my act to plan system that I developed after working with. This sounds crazy because it's such a big number, but it's true. I'm going to step into my badass shoes here. Every time I say it, I freak out a little that, I've worked with 30,000 business owners and leadership teams over the last 20 years. That's a lot of people. And this act to plan system came specifically from understanding where they needed courage, where they needed skills, and helping them get those things to run their businesses profitably and in the way that they want to.
Perfect. And I am Marilyn Shannon. I'm a business life coach. And you can find me at Marilyn at Marilyn, what is it? Shannon.com. Thank you, Armand. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. And we can talk about anything. And I love to listen and help my clients and the companies that I work with tune in and understand their power and their listening potential. And with that, so a final closing word, Angela.
It's okay to be you. Embrace your quirkiness, whatever that is, or unquirkiness. Embrace it.
Embrace it. Yay. And what about you, Jessica?
I am going to repeat my word that defined freedom, courage, and end with a Maya Angelou quote that says, "I've got my own back."
Wow. And that is a good one. And I'm going to embrace my my badass. And I'm going to love it. My freedom. I'm going to love my freedom and share it. And so I want to thank the two of you and Yvonne who had to leave. And I would love to invite you all back again and talk about anything that pops up that you all want to talk about, anything controversial, anything. You just let me know if you got a good idea. You are always welcome. So thank
That
you.
sounds
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And for all of you out there, I appreciate you being here so much today and for sharing these moments with the four of us and Amnon and Chris and Suziani on the chat. And we look forward to having you again. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Reach out to
Thank you.
everyone you can and be thankful for everything. And with that, have a lovely.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.